Honolulu's where we are. Sweetheart, why didn't you come to the airport yesterday? My mother's sugary sweet voice drifted through the phone, but it did nothing to ease the sudden nausea twisting in my stomach. My grip on my suitcase tightened as I stood frozen in the middle of Dallas International Airport, the noise of bustling travelers fading into the background. They had lied. They had deliberately given me the wrong flight date. I'm Jocelyn Adams, and never in my wildest dreams did I think my own parents would go to such cruel lengths to exclude me. After an exhausting quarter at work, I had been desperate for a break, a chance to escape the stress, recharge, and enjoy some quality time with my family. I had been counting down the days to this trip, imagining the ocean breeze, the warmth of the sun, and the laughter-filled dinners by the shore. As a marketing executive, I had just wrapped up hosting high-profile international clients, pouring every ounce of energy into my job. This vacation wasn't just a getaway. It was my long-awaited reward for months of relentless work. You mean yesterday? I finally managed to whisper, my voice unsteady. A lump formed in my throat as my mind raced. But the flight was today at 2 p.m. That's what you told me. My fingers hovered over my phone screen. I can prove it. I still have the text messages. The silence on the other end of the line stretched too long. My heart pounded. What possible reason could they have for doing this to me? As other travelers hurried past me, their eagerness for their own journeys only serving to underline my mounting misery, the busy airport suddenly felt oppressive. My mother said, "Oh, sweetie, there must have been some confusion," but I could tell she was lying. It was all right with your sister. We've all made themselves at home at the resort. My sister made it, of course. Their golden kid, Amy, was always their top priority. When they insisted on taking care of all the airline arrangements themselves, saying it would be simpler that way, I should have seen something wasn't right. Somehow, the same parents who depended on me to assist them with their expenditures didn't trust me enough to purchase my own ticket. Mom, this wasn't a confusion, I exclaimed, my voice becoming louder as disbelief gave way to rage. You purposely gave me the incorrect date. Didn't you want me to go on this trip? Don't be dramatic, Jocelyn. The quiet on the other line was deafening. These things do occur. With a shaking hand, I hung up. Families embraced around me as they got ready for their own getaways, but I stood by myself, deceived by those who ought to have loved me the most. I was aware of the irony. For the previous 2 years, I had been providing them with monthly income to support their way of life following my dad's early retirement. They chose to keep me out of our family vacation, even though they depended on me to pay for everything from food to medical bills. Tears filled my eyes as I stared at my worthless baggage. But more than despair, I felt a raging rage swelling within me. This was about years of favoritism and manipulation, not simply a lost vacation. And as I stood there in the airport, I made a choice that will alter the course of history. I've always questioned whether my parents ever really considered me to be their daughter or only their money account. Amy was everything to me as a child. Her dance performances, her flawless smile, and her straight A's. I never gave up trying to win my parents' affection and acceptance, even though I learned to live in her shadow. I poured myself into my marketing position after graduation, working weekends and extra to advance in the company. I was creating something tangible while Amy, supported by her parents' retirement funds, followed her aspirations of becoming an actor. I managed a team of 15 employees and important client accounts within 5 years, earning the title of youngest executive at my firm. My dad made the decision to retire early at that point because of his arthritis. Supporting Amy's unsuccessful acting career had depleted their funds, and now they were having financial difficulties. I immediately volunteered to assist. I provided them $2,000 a month to pay for their utilities and mortgage. I also paid for unforeseen medical expenditures when they arose. I paid them more than $30,000 last year alone, which I had intended to use as a down payment on my own home. During our weekly calls, my mom would say, "We're so blessed to have such a generous daughter." But the calls would always conclude with an update on Amy's most recent audition or her new headshots. Unless they needed something, they never inquired about my life or job. I was ecstatic when they discussed organizing a family vacation to Hawaii 2 months ago. At last, an opportunity to spend time together. Dad had airline points to spend, so they insisted on making all the arrangements. They advise you to concentrate on your important client meeting and not worry about anything else. Everything will be taken care of by us. I was foolish enough to trust them. I even deposited additional funds into their account to assist with the cost of the resort. I assured them that it's the least I could do, picturing family feasts and carefree beach days as the sun sank. This trip might be different, I reasoned, and they might finally view me as more than simply their financial security. Rather, I found myself standing in a deserted airport, my heart broken and my suitcase packed. A new message buzzed through my phone, a picture of Amy and our parents enjoying cocktails at the beach. Family vacation begins, was the caption. You are missed, sis. I wish you had been able to attend. I had never experienced wrath like the one that consumed me in that instant. Something inside of me finally broke as I stood there in the airport, looking at Amy's picture. I began looking through my parents' previous texts, and the pattern quickly became apparent. Every discussion regarding the trip had been planned with the intention of making sure I wouldn't make it. My mother texted me that the flight was scheduled at 2 p.m. on the 15th. However, I could clearly see their boarding cards from yesterday, the 14th, when I looked at Amy's Instagram story. They had meticulously prepared this deceit, so they hadn't made a mistake. My phone rang once more. It was my dad this time. He began, "Jocelyn," in a harsh tone that sounded like he was reprimanding a kid. Your attitude has greatly irritated your mother. You're making this into a drama when we made a sincere error with the dates. Since you're an adult, you ought to be aware that these things do happen. There was no humor about it, but I still laughed. A sincere error, so why was Amy aware of the right date? Why did you insist on making all of the reservations yourself? Why have you spent weeks deceiving me? He started to say, "Now listen here," but I interrupted him. "No, you listen, Dad. I looked at my bank statements just now. I sent you $3,000 for this vacation last week. Did you simply take my money knowing you would abandon me? Or was that also a mistake?" I learned all I needed to know from the silence that ensued. Finally, taking a different technique, he said, "Jocelyn," in a gentler voice, "we have a fixed income, as you are aware. That money was necessary for the trip. Your career is going really nicely. Don't you understand that sacrifices must be made for family?" I could hardly hold the phone because my hands were shaking so much. Family sacrifices? For years, I have been making sacrifices. I've sacrificed everything to help you and your mother, including my funds and my aspirations to purchase a home. And this is how you pay me back? Stop being selfish, he yelled. This trip was necessary for your sister. Her acting profession has caused her a great deal of stress, and her career as an actor? I broke off, raising my voice. You're referring to the past time you've been supporting with my money while she's living in your home for free? The unsuccessful auditions, although I put in 60-hour weeks to provide for you all? He cried. Enough. I will not tolerate this disrespect. Jocelyn, you've changed. You've become ruthless because of money. Something changed inside of me at that very instant. Although the pain persisted, it was now solidifying into resolve. One thing, Dad, you're right. Things are going to change much more, and I have changed. After hanging up, I launched my banking app. The bank of Jocelyn needed to be permanently closed. Anger and resolve filled the trip home from the airport. I spent the evening recording everything, including bank transfers, text message screenshots, and a thorough spreadsheet detailing all the money I had donated to them over the previous 2 years. I felt terrible after seeing the total. 4,7,8,5,0. My parents' love had cost me that. I went to my bank the following morning and closed the joint account I had created in order to send them money. I then made a call to the Human Resources Department at my workplace to have my parents removed off my life insurance policy's beneficiaries list. I felt lighter with every stride, like I was finally escaping unseen bonds. The messages began to pour in at that point. My mother's guilt trips came first. Knowing that you're angry with us keeps me awake at night. Our family is being torn apart by this. How could you have such a cold heart? Amy then joined in. You are being so theatrical, my God. It was merely a misunderstanding. You are the reason Mom cries every day. However, my father's speech was the one that truly exposed their true nature. This is not how we brought you up. This is how you pay us back for everything we've done for you. This week, your mom needs her prescription filled. You dare not neglect your obligations to this family. Astonished by their boldness, I gazed at my phone. My obligations to the family? What about their obligation to show me the bare minimum of respect? I wrote a concise, assertive email instead of replying. Dear Amy, Dad, and Mom, I've been thinking a lot since yesterday. There was no misunderstanding in the Hawaii event. It was a conscious decision to keep my money while excluding me. This behavior pattern is now over. I am immediately discontinuing all financial assistance. I didn't have to give the money. It was an option. You have to locate another source of income. Never get in touch with me again for money. I need some distance and time to think about our relationship again. Regards. My phone was inundated with calls and texts in a matter of minutes. My mother bemoaned in her voicemails that they would lose the house. Amy called me callous and self-centered in her irate communications. The threat level of my father's texts increased as he threatened to take action if I didn't wake up. They were all blocked by me. Doubt attempted to infiltrate me as I sat by myself in my apartment that evening. I had been conditioned for years to prioritize their needs and to think it was selfish of me to have boundaries. But then I recalled being in that airport and knowing that they had spent my money and planned and carried out their betrayal. The following day at work, I got a surprise visitor. My father's sister, Aunt Rose, entered my office. She sat down opposite me and said, "I heard what happened. I was requested to talk reasoning to you by your parents." Rose caught me off guard, but I expected more guilt trips. "Jocelyn, what they did was horrible. For years, I've seen them exploit your generosity. Someone needs to be honest with you. This is not fair to you." As she stretched across the desk and squeezed my hand, tears filled my eyes. I was finally noticed by a member of my family, actually noticed me. Rose warned that they would do all in their power to entice you back in. Remain resilient. You're acting appropriately. I learned something 2 weeks after I sent the email that made the Hawaii event seem insignificant. During my lunch break, Rose contacted me, her voice tense with worry. "I have something to show you, Jocelyn. After work, is it possible for you to visit my home?" She had a pile of papers on her dining room table when I got there. "Last week, your father approached me and requested a loan. I did some research after he revealed certain information that didn't add up." Her display chilled me to the bone. Credit card bills, loan applications, and bank statements all presented an unsettling image. My parents had been spending my money on more than just necessities. They had been relying on my help to pay for their lavish lifestyle, which was well above their means. Rose gestured to a credit card bill and said, "Look at this. 3 months ago, they obtained a new card in your name. Have you recently looked at your credit report?" As I took out my phone and downloaded my credit report, my hands were shaking. It was there. I had no idea that there was a $15,000 credit card. They had opened it using my personal information and social security number. "That is identity theft," Rose said. "That's illegal, Jocelyn. I thought I was out of breath. How were they able to do this?" "There is more," Rose added. "Do you recall the tale of Amy's acting career? She isn't even in California to try out for roles. She has been working part-time at a nearby coffee shop and living at home the entire time. They said the money was for her acting classes and headshots. They have been gambling with it." As the pieces came together, the rooms whirled. The persistent demands for further funding, the evasive justifications. When I asked questions, the guilt tripped. It went beyond simple manipulation of emotions. It was deception. My mother texted me and my phone chimed. "We need to chat. Please, my love. Because of all this tension, your father is experiencing chest difficulties. You will be held accountable if something were to happen to him." I showed the note to Rose. She gave a head shake. "Additional manipulation. Without your money, their house of cards is collapsing and they are desperate. What ought I to do?" Rose said, "You have two options. You have the option of handling this discreetly or filing charges for identity theft. In any case, you must defend yourself." I reflected on years of selflessness, of prioritizing their requirements over mine, of accepting their falsehoods, the ache in the chest, the tears, guilt trips. They were playing a game. "I want to have a final conversation with them," I said, "in person, but you must accompany me there." Rose gave a nod. "I'll arrange it. However, we must first obtain proof and place a credit freeze on you. Jocelyn, they've shown their true selves to you. Have faith in them." I had trouble sleeping that night. I couldn't stop thinking about all the ambitions I had postponed in order to provide for children, the home I desired to purchase, the trips I didn't take, the money I ought to have saved. Not only had they taken my money, years of my life had been stolen by them, but as I laid there, I had another thought. I felt genuinely lucid for the first time in my adult life. The mist of deceit was dissipating, and a steely resolution took its place. Did they want to engage in some gaming? All right. However, I would set the rules this time. The meeting was scheduled to take place at Rose's home on Saturday afternoon. I spoke with a lawyer in the morning to learn my options in relation to identity theft. I then gathered all the evidence into a folder, everything including text messages, bank transfers, and credit card statements. I had to let them know that their game was ended. Amy was with my parents when they got there. She didn't resemble the carefree girl in those pictures from Hawaii. She had a drawn face. I feel guilty, like children summoned to the principal's office. They filed into Rose's living room. Thank you for coming, I said steadily. I've found a few topics we should talk about, my mother interrupted, tears welling in her eyes. Jocelyn, you must know. No, I interrupted her before he speak. Now I'm speaking. I took out the statements from my credit cards. Is there anyone who could explain this? The hue vanished from my dad's face. Amy was perplexed, but my mother spoke out right away. There was an urgent situation. We intended to inform you. A crisis? I spread out other papers, like the debts from gambling or the credit cards that are maxed out, or perhaps Amy's fictitious acting career. Amy's head jerked upward. Fake, what do you mean? I looked over at her. Do you truly have no idea? I've been informed that you're pursuing acting in California. All of my money allegedly went there. Your headshots, classes, pay the rent. What? Amy gave our parents a startled look. I have a job at Starbucks. I was informed that you declined to assist with my college expenses. Chaos ensued in the room. Amy broke down in tears. My mom made an effort to clarify, and my dad got to his feet, his face flushed with rage. Enough, he yelled. We took the necessary action. You're not understanding. Oh, I completely understand, I answered, presenting my last piece of proof. You stole someone else's identity. It is a federal offense. Here, I have two options. File charges or deal with this in private. It's your choice. My mom broke down in dramatic tears. You wouldn't. We are your parents, Rose interrupted. Parents don't steal from their children. Parents are not deceitful, manipulative, or dishonest. At that moment, my father stumbled and gripped his chest. My heart, he exclaimed. Make an ambulance call. I almost fell for it for a second. Then I caught a glimpse of my mother's face. Calculation? Not panic. Their last play was this one. They'll try to take charge again. No, I answered firmly. No more deceit. This is what will take place. A reimbursement agreement for each penny you stole will be signed by you. That fake credit card will be closed. You're also going to abandon me. What if we say no? My father inquired, inexplicably forgetting his heart attack. After I filed charges, you can tell a judge what you did. The ensuing hush was deafening. At last, my father gave a defeated nod. With her eyes suddenly dry, my mother gazed at the ground. What about Amy? Amy gave me the impression that she was finally seeing me clearly. I was not satisfied when they signed the reimbursement arrangement that my lawyer had drafted. Just a profound emptiness of heart for the family I believed I had. My parents' meticulously crafted facade came crashing down in the weeks that followed. They were compelled to sell their home and relocate into a tiny apartment without my financial assistance. According to the payback arrangement, they had to return me for the majority of their retirement income. It wasn't retaliation, justice was served. While Amy considered her options, she temporarily moved in with Rose. One evening, she called me in a tiny, unsure voice. She said, I didn't know what they were doing. They had been pitting us against one another for all these years. I apologized profusely, Jocelyn. Although her apology had some significance, it was insufficient to undo years of harm. It was a start, though. My parents tried to control me one last time. They caused a commotion in the lobby when they unexpectedly arrived at my office. My mother cried, after everything we've given up for you, we're going to lose everything. Surrounded by worried coworkers, I refused to back down. Calmly, I answered, you lost me. It was your decision, and that's all that matters. They were led away by security, and I felt at ease as I watched them go. I was free of the guilt that had plagued me for years. Their victim, their emotional punching bag, and their ATM were all gone. I reserved a trip to Hawaii for myself that night. I grinned at the irony when I verified the reservation. They had offered me something invaluable in exchange for their attempt to keep me out of a family holiday: liberty. I saw the sunset paint the sky in vivid oranges and pinks when standing on a beach in Maui 3 months later. This was just what I needed. Even though it wasn't the family vacation I had envisioned, a text from Rose buzzed through my phone, which was quiet now that there wasn't a continual stream of guilt-tripping messages. This weekend, they're finally leaving the house, she wrote. Amy is a community college student. When you get back, she wants to grab coffee with you. I said, tell her I'm open to it, after taking a long intake of salt air. Slowly but surely, the payback plan was paying off. The majority of my parents' belongings had been sold, and they consistently sent me a check each month. They had no other option, not because they were sorry. If they missed even a single payment, the fraud allegations I had quietly buried would resurface. unraveling everything they had tried to hide. My mother, relentless as ever, continued to flood my inbox with desperate emails from various accounts, each one dripping with emotional manipulation. While you live in luxury, we're stuck eating ramen noodles. Was this what you wanted? I stared at the message for a moment before deleting it without a second thought. The old me would have agonized over their words, but not anymore. I had grown immune to their guilt trips. Life had finally started moving forward for me. I had just received another promotion at work, a milestone I once thought would be impossible under the weight of their chaos. The time and energy I had spent trying to manage their disasters were now fueling my own success. For the first time in years, I was making plans for myself. I had even started house hunting, a dream I had pushed aside for far too long. My future no longer revolved around fixing their mistakes. And as I stood on the shore, the waves lapping at my feet, the realization hit me with absolute clarity. Forgiveness and reconciliation don't always lead to the happiest endings. Sometimes, true peace comes from choosing to walk away. My parents had schemed to hurt me with this trip to Hawaii. Instead, they had set me free. For more captivating stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to the SoraBook channel. Stay tuned for the next video.